Well, this afternoon, there's more trouble for government as workers in the Ghana's education sector have declared an indefinite strike over government's failure to pay up their cost of living allowance. The workers, actually made up of TEU, NAT, NAGRAT, and CCT, had demanded that the 20% of their basic salary be paid them. This was to help mitigate the impact of the rising cost of living on them. But after the June 30th deadline was exhausted, the workers have withdrawn their services both in and outside of the classroom. So here's the General Secretary of NAT, Thomas Musa, announcing that decision a while ago.
These calls, unfortunately, have fallen on deaf ears. We wish to use this forum to express our displeasure over the insensitivity of the government regarding our demands. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our demand is influenced by the high level of inflation in the country, the incessant skyrocketing prices of fuel, goods and services have eroded the already woefully so-called salary increase granted us as expressed in the 4% and 7% respectively for the year 2021 and 2022. Inflation in the country is currently 27.6% and continues to escalate ad infinitum. Only God knows when this will end or abate. We are very much appalled at the inaptitude of the government relative to our call for COLA. We have severally on different platforms and times made this call, which fell on deaf ears of government. For instance, several press conferences on this matter include the following. 1. A press conference address on 24 February 2022 by the unions in the pre-tertiary education sector. 2. A press conference expressed or addressed on the 20th of May 2022 by the Forum of Public Sector Unions. A passionate request contained in the 2022 May speech, and recently an official correspondence dated 24th June 2022 by the Secretary General of TUC addressed to the President of the Republic of Ghana have not had any acknowledgement from same. The loud silence of the government on this matter is worrisome and leaves much to be desired of any government that cares about its workers. We wish to unambiguously express our grave concern of the excruciating pain of poverty that has been bestowed on the Ghanaian teacher and the educational workers, and leaves us with no option than where we are now. The members of the unions in the education can no longer bear the hardship. Even more so, we reject the inequality of salaries in the public services of this country. And I want to take this particular aspect again. Even more so, we reject the inequality of salaries in the public service of this country. Yeah. We have been compelled under the current circumstances to publicly communicate to Ghanaians on our intention to go on strike. Having gone past the June 30th 2022 deadline, we gave government for the payment of cost living allowance. Consequently, we have decided to embark on a strike action effective today, Monday, 4th, 2022, in the year of our Lord.
Well, the workers say their demand stand despite the impending IMF bailout being pursued by government. Mark Crunchy is General Secretary of TAIU.
This concern now, we have always talked about this salary disparity among public sector workers. How can it be that some section of the public sector workers got last year and this year more than 45%, and others are getting 4 and 7%? It is unheard of, and therefore we have called, and it is not today that we are calling for the review of the senior spine pay structure. It has to be reviewed, and it has to be reviewed immediately. Now, the meeting on Friday, we saw it as an attempt to water down the request, because that is what government will always do. They will call for a meeting and they will say, because we are engaging, you don't have a right to embark on a strike action. We saw far in advance this move, but we think that it is time, because we have waited for too long. Some of us started calling for this COLA way back in February 2022. Before May Day, we issued a statement, and all this while, no single invitation came forth. And that is why we think that we have gotten to our wits' end, and therefore we must make this declaration. As for the IMF and its, what we call it, ramifications and conditionalities, that is not what we are looking for. There is already a lot of any need for the country to go for IMF bailout.
These are the concerns of organized labor, particularly the teacher unions. Let's expand this conversation some more. Joining us now is Michael Ayuraboya. He is the General Secretary of NAGRA, joining us, fortunately, just after that press conference. It appears that you are raising a number of issues, but let's start off on the economic front. You say that giving government's decision to go to the IMF, there's a likely implication for the demands you're making in the new allowances. And yet, in spite of all of these challenges, you say you will not back down. You will take your allowance regardless of the economic situation in which we find ourselves. Are you not being insensitive, if it's fair to describe you as such?
On the contrary, good afternoon to my viewers and listeners. On the contrary, the government is being insensitive to us. Why? The government pushed down our throats into the embarrassment of leadership. In 2020, negotiation salary for 2021-2022, 4% and 7% respectively. That was quite embarrassing for leadership. But we had to take it. Yet nothing has changed in the powers that be in terms of how they manage this country and how the expenses have been like. In fact, they are responsible under Article 36 of our Constitution. Government is under the responsibility of ensuring that our economic well-being is good. So if inflation today is at 27.6 and beyond, what do you expect of the Ghanaian?
But you've heard the explanation from government, for instance, on the economic condition, the point about the external factors influencing this largely. You're not taking any of that? The Ukraine-Russian war, the COVID-19 explanations, that's not sufficient in terms of
I don't think there was war in Ukraine and Russia in 2020. But we took the 4%. I don't think there was war in Ukraine in 2021. So why are we using that as an excuse? In fact, as the last time I checked, I'm not sure what, in terms of the kind of food that we eat, when you check the food inflation, wheat and all the things that come from Russia, it's not what we talk about. I still remember very well the agriculture minister telling us how banana, plantain was so cheap in this country. Maize and the rest, that's what we eat, rice. As far as I know, it doesn't come from Ukraine.
So all you want is your money?
What we want is that we know that the fuel price has increased. Okay? We know the foodstuff and goods and services have increased. And our salary has remained same.
Yeah, but the decision to just throw away the academic calendar is what's quite unfortunate, isn't it?
This is
you're deciding now that no teaching and learning basically will happen simply because you are demanding an allowance. And this is not, we need to be clear, not your salary.
Yes, but effectively it's our salary because we are asking for cost of living allowance. We cannot live. So how do I go to teach? You know the fuel prices today. And the teacher has no free fuel anywhere to go to school. And you know how remote our teachers work. You know the place.
You don't have free fuel, but some say you live in bungalows for free, for instance.
Please, this is ridiculous. Your cameras can go into the schools and check how many teachers are currently resident in the schools. And check even the state and conditions of those bungalows. So embarrassing of a teacher.
For now, what will it take to bring you?
We want to build our own bungalows and live in.
Right.
And not live in the government bungalows. Because they are not fit for purpose. So if we're paid well, we would prefer to live in our own bungalows like all other workers in this country. And then go and do our work.
For now,
let's not forget, our presence in the schools, we are being compelled. Because without us in the schools, they cannot control those children. We are the teachers on duty. We are the senior housemasters who have to ensure that the children do all the right things. That gives them a holistic training. So it's not a luxury for us living in the schools. We are compelled to. And in that situation, we should have even been praised and given better conditions of service in terms of accommodation.
So now you've taken that bold step of proceeding and actually laying down your tools. What will it take you to return to the classrooms?
20% COLA.
Non-negotiable?
Non-negotiable. In fact, I said at the beginning, the government has been so insensitive to us. It started with organized labor, all the teacher unions addressing the press conference as far back as February, 24 February, I remember, 2022. No response. Forum did a similar one, no response. May Day, I'm sure you were there, under the TUC Secretary General, made a request, official request to the presidency. In fact, certainly the president and the vice president were both there. No response. We followed up with a request, a formal letter. As I speak, I'm unaware of any response.
But some say that particular venue, the signs were clear. The president had given you indication at that very event that you are not going to get what you are looking for, or at least.
The sad part of it, because that's not how to engage. Our expectation was that even if that was the case, you don't give an indication there, because that's where the request.
But that's a president being frank with you, isn't it?
If they want to be frank with us, they should be frank to the end. They cannot choose and pick. We have never been too frank. They have never been too frank with us in terms of how we spend in this country. You know, because I do not want to sound very political. You know how much the president takes. And you know that the president doesn't buy fuel. You know that the president's whole entire life is been taken care of. Now till he dies, he's been taken care of. Yet, they tell us that they have ceded 30%, 20% of their salary. I'm not even too sure what it is. You know what that means? That's my whole annual gross salary. And I'm a deputy director.
So that's
so think about those guys behind me.
Okay. How long do you see this strike going on? I mean, it's a very unfortunate question, but I need to ask you. Wouldn't you be considerate of the school children, those in the classrooms, and say, well, we'll just do this for 1 month and then get back to the classroom?
20% Nahan, then work will continue. Without that, nothing else. And we are ready. We are prepared for it. This one, we have taken time. In fact, this government has enjoyed labor. This government has enjoyed labor. They should also just think about that we are also human beings who work tirelessly for this country.
Give us a sense of the membership and some of the schools that are likely to be affected when we talk about this coalition that we are looking at.
This is the entire nation. All schools. Just go for the data of all the schools in this country. Because it's made up of, including non-teaching staff, NAT, NAGRAT, CCT, TEWU, the entire staff of the Ghana Education Service and all pre-tertiary institutions within this country.
And this is like the education sector?
Yes.
Before the tertiary level, all of them, everything below it is grinding to a halt. That's a big deal for our education sector.
It's for government to think about that.
You're not mindful?
Well, we are tired.
You've been told on countless occasions that, I'm sorry to say this, your reward is in heaven. You're used to that by now, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's the painful aspect of it. Whilst others are receiving theirs here and still being hopeful that when they get there, they will also get another. We are to be suffering here, so that when we get there, we'll still share the same thing. This time, we'll refuse it. Let's have it here. Give us our daily bread today.
Right. Michael, we need to go, but the president and I'm sure some other officials of government are watching now. What will be that clear message to the authorities and on your demand?
The message is that government, we feel cheated. We feel insulted. Government has been so insensitive to the extent that they do not see the suffering of the Ghanaian teacher and for that matter, the Ghanaian worker. And that they can live in the comfort and the luxury that they live and the rest of us can go to hell. And not even caring to reach out to us. We are sad, but we have to take ourselves to this level so that we are appalled by the inequality of salary levels in this country. And we wish that we can watch one another on the faces and let the right thing be done. And it begins with us telling them the truth, the bitter truth.
How about the parents?
I'm a parent myself. My kids are going to be out of school. But that's what it takes for them to also even be in school in the first place, to eat, to take good medical care. Stop deceiving us. I still have to treat them with money, the mega money.
Which part of the academic calendar are we finding ourselves now, and what will be the likely implication if everything grinds to a halt now?
In fact, it's not of consideration to us at this moment.
Yeah, but you know about that.
Yes.
So which part are we now?
We are not really worried about that. What we are worried about is that everything comes to a standstill, resolve our issue. We have the magic that we have always worked over the years to change everything around. Whether we are in second semester, we are in trimester, we are in first term, we thought when they, as government, distorted the academic calendar, we put it back in place.
So what you're telling me is if government pays you even after a month, you would have a way of making up for the contact hours?
We don't expect this to take us 2 weeks. We don't expect this to take us
even if it's 2 weeks. You're expecting that you'll be able to make up for
we
all
will.
The lost contact?
As we have always done. You remember 2006? You remember? Nagrat went on strike, October 2006. They took our salaries. They didn't pay us in October 2000. Some of us were not paid because we went on a strike. That led to the single spine salary structure. We survived. We put things back in.
So you're determined to do the same this time around?
Well, when we get there, we'll see.
Anyway. And I hope you're not learning from your colleagues at the university level. That's the fear of many out there.
What else can we do but to look up to our seniors? That's an obvious thing to do. If those are our seniors and doing so well, did so well, got what they wanted to do, we can learn from that. Why not emulate the good things? We are determined. And when it comes to the numbers, we have the numbers. We are the ones who produce for them. So we deserve it also.
Anyway. We'll see how all of this will unfold, but I'm grateful. 2 weeks, you're saying you're hopeful that something will be done about this. But Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Michael Ayuraboya is the General Secretary of the NAGRAT, speaking on behalf of the Coalition of Teachers. And as you may have heard about, it's been declared now, obviously, that these groups are going on strike. You're with us here on the Pulse. Please stay with us. We'll return shortly.